Good morning. It's September 12th, 2025, and this is your morning briefing from Anchor Watch. I'm Bobby Jones, and here are four stories that I think you need to know to get your day started. Story number one, an update on the biggest story that's happening in America right now. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck and killed September 10th, 2025, while speaking at an event held outside of the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. The video of the assailant has been released. The unknown assailant fired from a distant rooftop, prompting a manhunt as two initial suspects were detained and quickly released. Authorities released surveillance footage showing the suspect fleeing the scene across the university rooftop and nearby grounds, while a high-powered rifle was found in a wooded area. Utah Governor Spencer Cox warned against widespread misinformation and urged the public to spend less time on social media, stating, "What we're seeing is our adversaries want violence." Kirk's death intensified tensions with calls for unity from public figures and President Trump blaming political rhetoric, while investigators and a federal manhunt for the shooter continues. I think Governor Cox's remarks regarding social media and misinformation are spot on. The amount of bad information that's been put out in a rush to be first or in a rush to get this thing finished as far as an investigation has caused unbelievable damage and delays in the actual investigation. Story number two, on the domestic front, Senate Republicans have now triggered the nuclear option, changing rules to speed up the approval of President Trump's nominations. On Thursday, Senate Republicans employed a procedure maneuver to revise the chamber's rules, enabling a faster confirmation process for 48 of President Trump's executive branch nominees. This move followed collapsed bipartisan talks aiming to avoid the nuclear option, as it's called, amid months of tension over a backlog of nominees. The new rule permits in-block consideration for nominees, including cabinet and judicial posts, and passed on a party line of 53 to 45. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said, "Time to quit stalling," while Brian Schatz noted, "This would buy us the time we need." Confirmations under the new rule will begin next week, potentially accelerating Trump's nominees despite Democratic concerns over reduced scrutiny. The reason the Democrats are raising this issue is the amount of nominees that President Trump has put forward that are woefully unqualified for their positions are almost unprecedented. President Trump is citing loyalty, vice expertise, and we've seen that with some of the already confirmed nominees in positions of high authority. The Democrats want to be able to scrutinize each one painstakingly to make sure that they are up for the job. Trump just wants to have loyalists in position immediately for no other reason than to protect him and his interests. And then the other reason being to push the agenda that is being pushed right now that polls show most of the American people do not agree with. Story number three, in international news. On Thursday, Brazil's Supreme Federal Court, their version of the Supreme Court, convicted former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro on plotting a coup to overturn the 2022 election and sentenced him to 27 years and 3 months in prison. After his 2022 defeat, Bolsonaro was accused of seeking to cling to power by plotting a military-style coup with alleged assassination plans, and Justice Carmen Luca called him an instigator and a leader of a criminal organization. In response, the United States Treasury Department on July 30th sanctioned Justice de Moraes, with the Secretary of State Marco Rubio stating the political persecutions by sanctioned human rights abuser Alexandre de Moraes continue, as he and others on Brazil's Supreme Court have unjustly ruled to imprison former President Bolsonaro. Following the convictions, Brazil's government pushed back against the United States threats, as Brazil Foreign Ministry said that Rubio's comments attacked Brazilian authority, while President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva vowed to retaliate against any unilateral tariff increases. Next year, Bolsonaro is expected to name an heir to challenge the current president, and last month, Eduardo Bolsonaro met with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to press for sanctions. This is not only unprecedented, but it blindly says the United States will not recognize Brazilian authority over its own domestic affairs. The evidence against former President Bolsonaro was pretty overwhelming, very overwhelming. The Brazilian people, for the most part, understand this and expected that their former president be tried and convicted. He was convicted because of it. The fact that the United States has taken the unusual step of commenting on Brazil's process to hold their people accountable speaks to the nature of how Trump sees international relations. If he is a friend of that person, he expects special consideration, much like he's gotten in the United States. And finally, a story of economic interest. The United States inflation increased to 2.9% in August, and that has been driven by increased prices in gas, groceries, and airfare, as reported by the Labor Department. Core prices, excluding food and energy, rose 3.1%, remaining above the Federal Reserve's 2% target, according to Labor Department figures. Chair Jerome Powell indicated that the Federal Reserve is likely to cut the short-term rate to about 4.1% in response to rising unemployment and inflation challenges. The unemployment rate in August increased to 4.3%, with an uptick in weekly unemployment claims suggesting potential layoffs ahead. This is on top of revised Labor Bureau statistics that said the United States had almost 1 million jobs lost in the previous month. And that is with the new head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics in charge of the revisions. So this shows that the economy is definitely slowing down, and many experts are worried that a full-blown recession is right around the corner, thanks to the policies imposed by the current administration. And that is your morning briefing this morning, September 12th, 2025. Again, if anything happens over the weekend, I will bring it to you and go live. But make no mistake, there are signs that the economy is slowing down. Brazil is holding people accountable, unlike the United States. And we continue to move forward with nominating and approving people who probably have no business in the seat that they have been nominated for. It's scary times here in America, but we, the people, still have the power to change all of that. Talk to you soon.